All right, let's jump into a deep dive, shall we? We're tackling indexicals today. You know those words like, here, now. They're like deceptively simple, but they get really tricky when you think about them.
They do.
We've got some excerpts from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy to help us out, and of course, our expert here. So why all the fuss over these little words?
Well, they kind of point to this really cool connection between language and like the context you're in. They mess with the idea that words just have, one meaning.
Right, so it's not just the word itself, but who's saying it and when they're saying it, right?
Yeah, exactly. The Stanford Encyclopedia, it defines an indexical as a word whose reference can totally shift, depending on the context, Like take you, for example.
You.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
I could refer to anyone.
Right.
Depends who they're talking to.
That makes sense. So it's like the word itself is a pointer, but what it's pointing at is like always moving.
Yeah.
That's different from a word like bank, which has two totally different meanings.
Yeah. Exactly. With bank, you've got like the financial institution or like the edge of a river, totally separate. But with indexicals, that shifting reference is like built into the word itself.
I see. So I always means the speaker, but who that speaker is changes every time.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so these tiny words can really lead to some pretty huge philosophical questions. And we've got the classic examples, right? I, now, here. But the encyclopedia also says that things like tenses is versus was, or those modal words like can and might could also be considered indexical. What's up with that?
Well, it gets us thinking about how much context you actually need to understand what someone's saying. Like, take the sentence, every student has a pencil. It sounds simple enough, right?
Yeah.
But what if there's like just one student somewhere who doesn't have a pencil?
Ah, okay. So does that make the whole sentence false?
Right.
So even a basic sentence can hide a lot of complexity. Makes you wonder how much we assume when we're talking to each other. Now, the encyclopedia mentions this philosopher, David Kaplan. He made this big distinction between character and content when it comes to these indexicals.
Yeah.
Could you unpack that for us?
Sure. So Kaplan, he said character is like the fixed meaning of a word, like the dictionary definition.
All right.
But content is what's actually being said, taking into account the speaker and all that.
So if two different people said, I am happy, the character is the same. Someone saying they feel happy, but the content, who's actually feeling happy, could be totally different.
Yeah, you got it. If I say I am happy and I'm genuinely like feeling joyful, then my statement's true, right? Matches reality.
Right.
But if you say I am happy and you're actually like secretly miserable,
Oh, yeah.
then what you said doesn't match up with how things really are.
Interesting. So indexicals connect language to the person who's speaking. But the encyclopedia says that Kaplan took this even further with something called structured propositions. What are those?
So he said the content of a sentence with an indexical in it, it's not just some vague idea. It's like a very specific structure built from the meanings of the individual words.
Okay.
So if I say I am happy, it's not just the general concept of someone being happy, It's specifically linking me to the state of being happy.
It's like a little package, like this person plus this attribute.
Exactly. And then you can like check that package against reality, true or false.
I see. This is getting really complex, especially when you think about what it means to believe something. Like if I believe I am hungry,
Yeah.
what am I actually believing? Yeah. Just a fact about me or something more general?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. It gets into self-awareness and truth and how we each see the world,
Whoa, my head's already spinning and we've just started.
So to really get into belief and indexicals, there's this classic example, the messy shopper.
Okay, the messy shopper. I'm listening. What is that?
It's this thought experiment by John Perry, this philosopher. And it's about this guy, John, who's walking through the supermarket.
Okay.
He sees like this trail of spilled sugar on the floor. And he looks up. There's a mirror, right? He sees another shopper pushing their cart and their bag of sugar's leaking.
Uh-huh.
And John thinks, he's making a mess and keeps shopping. Figures he'll like let the guy know.
All right, so what happens?
The thing is, John IS the messy shopper. The whole time, it's his sugar trailing behind him. He doesn't realize it until later when he bumps into the mess and says, oh, I'm making a mess.
Wait, so he doesn't even know it's him? That's funny. But I don't get how this is about indexicals.
It's about what it means to believe something when you use those words. Like on the surface, believing he's making a mess and believing I'm making a mess. They seem like the same belief, right? It's the same event, John spilling sugar.
Yeah, I see what you mean. if it's just a belief about that one fact, they should be the same. But he believed one and not the other, at least at first.
Right, and it gets even weirder because at first he even says, I am not making a mess. So is he believing two opposite things at the same time?
Oh, wow. This messy shopper is really messing with my brain.
Yeah.
So what's the explanation here? Is there something wrong with how we think about believing things when indexicals are involved?
Well, it gives us two arguments against the idea that we just believe simple facts about specific things when we use indexicals.
Okay.
First, like we were saying, John believes he's making a mess without believing I am. That means there's more to those beliefs than just linking an event to a person.
And second, it looks like he believes I am and I am not at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. It suggests that our beliefs with these indexicals, they're more complex than just, saying yes or no to facts about individuals.
Okay. So how do we fix this? Can we
Yeah.
still understand belief even with these indexicals?
Well, people have tried. One idea is the descriptivist theory.
Descriptivist. What's that?
They say that indexicals are like shortcuts for descriptions. Like when John thinks he's not directly thinking about that guy. He's using a description like the man I see in the mirror. That's how he picks out who he means.
Hmm. So instead of pointing to a person in your mind, you use a description to find them. Interesting. But what if the description's wrong? Like, what if the mirror's all warped and the guy looks different? John still means the same person, even if his description doesn't match.
That's one problem people have with that theory. And also, imagine trying to describe someone's face exactly. It'd be so complicated.
I can barely describe what I had for breakfast. Forget about a stranger's face.
Right. Relying only on descriptions seems like it wouldn't work very well.
So are there other theories that are better?
There are. David Lewis and Roderick Chisholm, they came up with something else. They said that maybe we don't believe propositions, but properties.
Properties. Okay, so what does that mean? Believing a property instead of a proposition.
So, like, believing I am hungry isn't about believing a fact about me specifically. It's about ascribing the property being hungry to yourself.
So it's not about the individual person so much, but the characteristic itself.
Exactly. This gets around the problem of needing to describe specific people perfectly. It's more about what qualities we have.
Okay, but that still seems, I don't know, incomplete. Like,
Yeah.
my feeling of being hungry is different from yours, even if we both have that property.
You've got a point there. It doesn't quite capture that personal experience of an indexical, does it?
It seems like every time we think we're getting close, there's another layer. And the encyclopedia mentions complex demonstratives, too. Like, more stuff to figure out. What are those?
So complex demonstratives, they're phrases like that man or this car. Like they seem to pick out one specific thing, but people disagree about whether they really do or if there's some kind of hidden quantity thing going on.
So if I say that car is red, am I talking about one very specific car? Or am I saying something about, like, all cars or some cars? I guess it depends.
It does, yeah. There are like three main theories about how these complex demonstratives work. The minimal view, it says that the noun, like car in that example, it's just a hint. It helps, but the real reference comes from other stuff, like if you're pointing or the situation you're in.
So car doesn't mean you have to be talking about just one car. It just helps narrow things down a bit.
Right. Then there's the intermediate view. That one says the noun is more important for picking the right thing, but it's not actually part of what you're saying about it. Like, it helps you find the car, but it doesn't change whether is red is true or false.
This is like a tool to identify the object, but not part of the core meaning of the sentence.
Exactly. And then you've got the maximal view. That one says, no, the noun is a full-on part of the meaning. So in that car is red, the idea of it being a car is important to what you're saying.
Okay, so with that one, I'm not just talking about some random object.
Yeah.
I'm specifically saying something about a car.
Yep, that's the idea. So even something simple like that man can lead to arguments about what it means to refer to something and what meaning even is.
It really is amazing how much philosophy is hiding in everyday language. It's like every time we answer one question, 10 more pop up. It's been a wild ride, this deep dive into indexicals.
It has. But these little words, they give us a way to understand how we think and how our thoughts connect to the real world.
Well, before we go, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? Something to keep them thinking about all this.
I'd say this. Every time you use an indexical, you're not just pointing to something out there. You're also showing us your own point of view. How you understand here or now is tied to, your place in the universe.
Wow, that's deep. Makes you realize how much language is about our own experience.
Hmm.
I'm definitely going to be more mindful of these words from now on.
Glad to hear it. It's been great talking about all this with you.
Thanks for being our guide through this philosophical jungle. And to our listeners, until next time, keep asking those big questions and keep an eye on those indexicals.